today's Warzone video, we're taking a look at the top 7 meta assault rifles you guys need to be using. These are going to be the best assault rifles in here in Warzone after the update, and I'm not going to lie, some of these are quite surprising. If you guys have enjoyed today's video, give it a like, subscribe, notifications turned on, and let's hop into this. All right, I'm not going to lie, the first gun here today, the QBZ, is not something I think I'd ever thought about putting in a top 5 or top meta loadout video. This is one of those guns that pretty much has never been like super good in Warzone, but for whatever reason, after different couple updates, buffs, and nerfs, it's pretty much like one of the better, or if not one of the best, all-around guns you guys can use. And I use it with my nail gun gameplay as my primary AR to kind of use with the nail gun, and it was really good. I was frying with it. So let's give you guys a setup for this gun. First thing, must want to go throw on the agency suppressor here. Gotta throw on the agency, pretty much a standard here for a lot of these Cold War assault rifles. Barrel section, we go through on the 15.5 Task Force. This is such a good barrel here. Bullet velocity, horizontal recoil control, and along with that vertical, and of course effective damage range. Definitely the best barrel to run here on this gun. Under barrel section, you got to control that recoil, so we go through on the field agent grip here for horizontal and vertical recoil. It will kind of bounce around ever so slightly, but that, visual recoil is super easy to manage here on this gun. So I'd definitely say, the field agent is still, necessary, but it's super easy to manage. Magazine, we're gonna go throw on the STANAG 60 round drum here. I just like the 60 round drum. I think it's, really solid to have 60 rounds in your magazine. Of course, I'm a 60 round mag kind of guy, so I go for the 60 more or less anyways. But even apart from that, the 60 round drum is definitely my go-to on pretty much the 60 round magazine is my go-to on any AR. More rounds, more or less, the better. Besides the kilo, we don't want that 100 round drum. And then for our last thing in the optic section, we go throw on the Axle Arms 3 times here, as this is pretty much our go-to optic on any of these Cold War ARs. It doesn't really matter what it is, we always go for an Axle Arms 3 times, just because there's nothing really like a Corp Combat hollow sight or something else like that for these guns. So we pretty much always go for the 3 times. So this is my full build here for the QBZ. Definitely try it out. I was really surprised I could even throw this in this video, but I mean, it's actually really good right now. Next up, we're gonna take a look at the Grau 5.56. I get a lot of comments whenever I throw this into a top meta loadout video that people are like, hey, Chuck, I can't actually use the Grau. I don't have the Grau unlocked. But I mean, it's definitely, when you have this thing unlocked, it's definitely an incredible AR to use here in Warzone because people love it because it's got like 0 recoil to it. So first thing, muzzle, we're gonna go through on the mono suppressor, a staple for all of our Modern Warfare AR, even SMG, LMG builds. The mono is just the way to go. Barrel section, we go throw on the Tempest 26.4 Archangel. I don't believe you guys should ever do something like we're on the Nexus. The Nexus is actually the barrel on the ground loot Grau in Warzone right now. I find it pretty often on Rebirth Island, but I don't really think it's actually all that great. I pretty much swap it out for anything else as soon as I can. More or less, you guys should always go for the Tempest 26.4. It's got those beautiful iron sights and is also just the most effective barrel for range, recoil control, bullet velocity, all that stuff. So it's kind of like a nice little 2-for-1 deal. Beautiful iron sights, and it's the best barrel for all those other benefits. Under barrel section, we got to throw in the Commando foregrip here just to kind of stabilize this gun out a little bit. Definitely needs it just ever so slightly, but other than that, you don't need anything else. Magazine, we're gonna go throw on the 60 round mag here. Of course, I stated I'm a 60 round mag kind of guy, so I always pretty much go for that 60 anyways. And then to round out this build, we're gonna go for a laser, and we're gonna throw on the TAC laser here for ADS speed, aiming stability, and aim walking steadiness. You guys could definitely switch this out maybe for something like, Civil Grip Tape, or you guys, like down here, go throw on, actually, well, it's not a stipple, it's the XRK Void 2, but the stipple on pretty much any other gun. Or you can even throw on like an optic, maybe go for a Corp Combat Hollow, or if you want to be a little bit longer range, go for the VLK 3 times. So there's a few different options in here, but my go-to is more or less to throw in a laser, just go for the TAC lasers. This is my full build here for the Grau. Hope you enjoy this one. Definitely use it. As long as you get it unlocked, it's an effective AR in Warzone. Our next up is pretty much one of my go-to ARs that I use in Warzone very regularly, the STG-44. I got a banger set up for it that's got some actual decent strafe speed to it and very easy to control. So let's hop into that. First thing, muzzle, we're gonna go throw on is gonna be, of course, the MX silencer here, sound suppression, vertical recoil control, of course, horizontal, and damage range. Definitely a really good thing here to run on this gun. A barrel section, we got to throw on the VDD 760mm 05B barrel. This is just super good for a barrel. I mean, it's the most effective barrel out there for making this a true AR. So you guys have to run this. In the underbarrel section, what we're gonna do is we're gonna go throw on the M1941 hand stop. I actually had great success here running the Carver foregrip, but I've since actually kind of switched a little bit more so to run the M1941 hand stop, and that's really good as well, though. You guys could definitely try the Carver foregrip, as I've ran that in plenty of my videos, and people always ask me, Chuck, what's your STG build? And I'm pretty much on the Carver or the M1941. Magazine, we gotta go for the 7.62 Gorenko 50 round mag. Pretty much just what we always go for on this thing. No reason to switch this out for like the Curve 60. That'd be like more or less the other option, but we always stick for the Gorenko 50. Ammunition, we're just going to go throw in, of course, lengthened for increase in bullet velocity. This is an AR, got to make sure our shots hit faster at longer ranges. Rear grip section here, I'm actually going to go in here. I'm going to throw in the hatch grip here for recoil control and flinch resistance. This helps out quite a bit for making sure you're as much of a laser beam as you can possibly be with this gun. I was running polymer grip, but I had a lot of people actually trying to tell me that the accuracy and recoil during sustained fire kind of cancels out with one of the other attachments. So I switched over to the hatch grip. I do believe this actually works really nicely. I'm not exactly sure how true that is, but the hatch grip does work really well. Optic section here, what we're going to do is we're going to go down in here and we're going to go throw on where it's at. Actually, the SVT scope here, the 3 to 6 times scope. This is a really good scope. I pretty much run this on all of my Vanguard ARs. I just believe the 3 to 6 times is perfect for a variety of different things. It doesn't matter what map you're playing. It doesn't matter if it's Rebirth, you know, Fortune's Keep, Caldera. It really doesn't matter. Pretty much always go for the SVT scope. Stock, what we're going to do is this is something a little bit interesting. We're going to go for the Constance Tactical. This is where you get some of that really cool strafe speed that kind of helps you out a little bit, that I'm a really big fan of. Aim locking movement speed, aim locking steadiness, and initial firing recoil. This one I was talking about, that polymer grip and the Constance Tactical, that initial firing recoil. When you actually have apparently 2 attachments that have that initial firing recoil benefit, it actually, I guess, kind of cancels out. But regardless, I mean, I still like the Constance, and this is pretty much one of my favorite stocks to run on this, hands down. Perk 1, I actually just go for sleight of hand for the increase in reload quickness. I really like having sleight of hand on this gun. And then in perk 2, I'm going to go down here for fully loaded, just to kind of round out my maximum starting ammo capacity. So this is my full build here for the STG. Hope y'all like this one. Give it a shot. It's pretty much like my favorite AR in Warzone to run right now. Next up is going to be the M13, the Modern Warfare M13. Not that there's like another M13, but I just had to announce that. Anyways, a lot of people, whenever I do not throw this in a top AR meta loadout video, regardless if it has or has not been changed or touched, people always ask, is it still meta? And I'm here to tell you, it's still meta. It's still real good. So let's give you guys a build for it. I'll give you guys a couple of them, more or less. But for the first thing, muzzle, got to go for the mono suppressor here. Of course, we're going to go for that mono. Barrel section, we're going to go throw on the Tempest marksman damage range, bullet velocity, and recoil control. Definitely got to use this here. It just makes sense to have the largest barrel on your gun. Seriously, just always go for the Tempest marksman. On the barrel section, what we're going to do is we're going to go throw on the Commando foregrip here. This is where I get some debate about people saying that this thing's got a little bit too much recoil. I personally don't think it really does, but if you really feel like it does, go throw like a Ranger foregrip, and that's going to help stabilize this gun out enough. But keep in mind, it will slow you down more so than the Commando foregrip. And I don't want to slow myself down more than I really have to, so the Commando is the way to go. Magazine section, we're going to go throw on the 60-round mag here. Of course, like I always say, 60-round mag kind of guy. You guys could try the 50 if you want a tad bit more mobility, but the M13's high rate of fire, I pretty much would say just exclusively go for the 60, and always stay away from the blackout rounds. These things are horrendous. They're not even fun to use. Like, I tried making a honey badger build out of this gun by, you know, changing the barrel and the magazine, and it's really not even worth it to try that. So don't ever do it. Lastly, we're gonna go for the optics, and this is where you have a couple options. The Corp Combat Hollow is great for that medium-ish range. I love running this on like Rebirth Island. That's a really fun thing to be able to do, as you're not really going to be getting into that many engagements at super, you know, far distances. So that's really good. And then the other option would be the VLK 3x optic, as this is going to be just, you know, perfect for those medium to longer ranges that be, of course, you know, the Corp Combat really can't, you know, do that good at. And the M13's got manageable enough recoil and a good enough damage profile to the point where you can use this for those longer ranges. But my go-to is the Corp Combat Hollow, as I love running this as that medium range AR. So this is my full build here for the M13. Hope y'all like this one. Definitely be using this thing. Super fun to be able to use. All right, next up, you guys are gonna be taking a look at the XM4. This is one of those guns here, of course, that, you know, when I do or do not talk about it, people are kind of like, hey, is this actually meta? And this gun has been making a lot more of a resurgence here recently within, you know, all these recent updates due to some of the other guns getting buffs or nerfs or, you know, changed in different ways. And the XM4 is kind of coming back in there. It's creeping back in, and it's some people's favorite main AR. It's not mine personally right now, but it's still an incredible AR you guys should be using. So first thing, muzzle, we're gonna go through on the agency suppressor here, of course. Barrel section, we have to go through on the 13.5 task force. This is going to be great for increasing, you know, your overall bullet velocity, helping you with that horizontal and vertical recoil control, and that effective damage range. Super necessary on this gun. Would not recommend trying out anything else. It just does not work great with anything else. Barrel section, we're gonna go throw on the field agent grip here for horizontal and vertical recoil control. You 100% need that on this thing. I mean, it's got a decent bit of recoil ever since some of those different nerfs to it. So you know, for sure need the field agent. Magazine, like I always say for everything, we're gonna go for that 60 round mag here. I used to run the 45 quite a bit, but I just believe the 60 to kind of be more or less better to go for. So I just go through on the 60. I mean, you don't need any of that extra sort of mobility. I mean, if you're trying to have a little bit more mobility, just run around with your SMG, you know, swap back and forth. I'm pretty sure most people run amped or something like that. If you don't run amped, you're running combat scout, switch to amped. Don't be a weirdo. Nobody likes someone that runs combat scout. I don't. It's really annoying. Anyways, Stenag 60 round mag. Optic section, we're gonna go through on the Axle Arms 3 times. Like I said for the previous Cold War AR, there's no real reason to run anything else. I mean, what are you gonna do? Run like a quick dot or something like that, or a microflex LED? You can do that if you're trying to maybe run like, I guess, a medium range build. That would, you entirely have to switch a whole bunch of stuff up on it. But otherwise, I mean, the Axle Arms 3 times is pretty much your go-to optic here on this gun. So this is my full build here for the XM4. Definitely try it out. Love the XM4. I probably should be using it more than I actually do. Next up, we're going to take a look here at the Vargo 52, not to be confused with the Vargo S. This is the actual better version of the Vargo. For whatever reason, Vanguard felt the need to add in a version of the Vargo. Don't really know why. It's not good. It really won't ever be good. So we're going to take a look at the Cold War Vargo. Just got to put that out there. This is the ferrofluid variant, by the way. One of the only variants they actually got for this gun. It's actually one of like 2, I believe. But anyways, this is a good AR that kind of goes a little bit more so under the radar as opposed to everything else for whatever reason. I don't know. But let's get into it. First thing, muzzle groove suppressor here. Of course, is pretty much the agency suppressor equivalent. Barrel section, we go through on the 18.6 task force here. 100% the way to go on this thing. No reason to switch it out for anything else. You got to make it truly as much of a laser beam as possible. On a barrel section, you got to throw on the Spetsnaz grip here, horizontal and vertical recoil control. Beautiful, beautiful grip. Magazine, we're going to go through on the Spetsnaz 60 round mag here. Pretty standard for, you know, most guns, 60 round mag or 45. I go for the 60. And then the optic, we're going to go through on the Axle Arms 3 times. The beautiful thing about this is if you happen to get the ferrofluid, which this variant actually is, it comes with all of these attachments. So it's a really great build here off rip. You can get just by purchasing the ferrofluids. Though I wouldn't really recommend getting bundles right now, considering you're not going to be playing Warzone 1 for too much longer. And last but not least, one of the OG meta banger weapons, the Kilo 141. This is a gun that I think a lot of people, including myself, actually really enjoy using here on, like, you know, Rebirth Island, on Fortune's Keep. I don't know as much about Caldera, but it's still a really good gun to use regardless. So let's get into the muzzle. We're gonna go through on the, you know, mono suppressor here, of course. Barrel section, we gotta throw on the 19.8 Prowler. Don't ever go for the SOCOM. The SOCOM does everything the Prowler does, but it does less of it. So always go for the Prowler over the SOCOM. It's going to do everything better than the SOCOM will actually do it. So 110% Prowler exclusively. Don't go for the SOCOM. It's not worth it. People try to argue with me about it. Trust me, I've looked into it. So is literally every other person, and we go for the Prowler. Barrel section, under barrel section, my bad. Commando foregrip here. Ain't got to do too much to this gun. It's not going to bounce around all that much. And even if it does a little bit, you can definitely control that recoil. Magazine, when you got to throw on the 60 round mag here. I always like to say that I go for more or less the maximum ammo on an AR, but that'd be the 100 round drum on this thing. And that is so overkill. You don't need 100 rounds in your magazine. It is not necessary. The 60 round mag is plenty enough, and the 100 rounds will slow you down significantly. It doesn't look terrible down there in that mobility bar and the control bar, but overall, like, it's bad. So just pretty much go for the 60. And then lastly, optic section, much like the M13 or any other model for AR. Corp Combat Hollow Sight's a great option. I love running this as that medium-ish range. You can also have great success by running the VLK 3x optic, as this gun's got very manageable recoil, and it's actually pretty solid at those medium to longer-ish distances. So this is going to be my choice here, is the VLK on this thing as opposed to Corp Combat. I like this a little bit better. This is my full build here. This has been my top 7. If you guys enjoyed today's video, give it a like, subscribe with notifications turned on, and I'll see you all later. Just remember, don't triple cap, don't be Randy, and I'm out. Peace.